Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
A lot of people conflate what happened to the storytelling. Like, what happened, that's not the full story. I mean, yeah, it's important to understand what happened, but the story starts from the minute after. From the minute after forward, it's like, how did what happened not break you? You know, that's like, I can talk about coming back from my knee injury, but people have knee surgery every day, you know, so that's not a big deal. But the doctor telling me I was never going to run or jump again, and defying those odds, like being in the top 5% of people that have this injury, and to be able to come back and compete in track meets and play basketball and volleyball and do obstacle races. You know, it's like the end result isn't the story either, right? So the fact that I broke my knee and the fact that I was able to battle back, right? No one's going to resonate with that on the surface. But when they talk about the daily grind and feeling the pain and doing it anyway and not wanting to and doing it anyway, and just as I got stronger and stronger and pushed the envelope, now you're talking about a story of
Introducing a powerful new update from the Foojan app. Now with flexible subscription plans to fit your journey monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Our new AI-driven onboarding customizes your path to feeling better, faster, and enjoy a refreshed experience with stunning 3D interactive videos. Update now. Empower your inner voice with Foojan. Download today.
Well, welcome to the Inner Voice, a Heartfelt Chat podcast. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist and author and the founder of the International Awareness Integration Institute. Today, I get to speak with Robert B. Foster. He's an award-winning international speaker, mental health advocate, and host of his own podcast, Shut Up and Cry, where he inspires guests to share their stories of trauma, survival, and defying the odds. He helps people heal themselves while empowering others that are having similar struggles. Having overcome his fair share of past pain, including divorce, doctors saying he'd never run or jump again, watching his father pass away, losing a job after 21 years, and being a single parent to 5 kids, to name a few, Robert created his flagship program, Speak About Yourself Out Loud, where he helps people take their stories from a place of pain to a place of power. Today, we will be talking about his book, Shut Up and Cry, Never Fear Public Speaking Again, specific approach on how to share your life stories to make you a better speaker, presenter, communicator, a leader, and a person. I had an amazing conversation with him, and I always learn from my guests. And as he was talking, I just went through my stories and all of the ups and downs that I've had in life and how I got myself to where I got. And it was fascinating, not only hearing his stories, his approach, how he shares and how he goes relating to pain that all of us have, or vulnerabilities that we all have, and how to access the best of us. So be sure to subscribe to this podcast, my YouTube channel, and connect with me through my website, FoojanZeine.com. And don't you forget, go to Foojan app, Google Play or Apple Store, and try out the Foojan app and the AI chatbot Mira, which can answer you and be your personal coach. All right. You can connect with me in any of my social media. I love to hear from you. So without further ado, here is Robert B. Foster.
Listen up if you want to promote your personal growth and self-awareness. I found the Foojan app last month and I have been absolutely loving it. I personally have never learned guided meditation, but thanks to this app, I now have learned incredible tools for my own stress relief and emotional self-awareness. Not to mention, there are self-evaluation tools and professional coaching available to utilize however your journey to self-discovery takes you. Join Foojan today and redefine your life one step at a time.
Intentional Parenting, a practical guide to awareness integration theory, written by Dr. Jafari, Dr. Foojan Zeine, and Dr. Manoukian, 3 experts in human development,
is your step-by-step guide to raising a healthy child prepared for a culturally integrated world. You're supported in parenting infants to adolescents using the latest evidence-based scientific research on parenting. Order your copy on Amazon now.
It is so nice to have you. Robert B. Foster, everyone. Welcome to the show.
How you doing? Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Now, you have a podcast and you wrote a book and you called it Shut Up and Grind. So first of all, you got to tell me how come you came up with this title.
So growing up, watching my father was an engineer, and just watching him create something out of nothing. Like if he had something in his brain, he found a way to make it come to life. And just watching that my entire life, like a quick example, he came home one day with this car that was just smashed in. Like the passenger side was almost to like the center line of the car. I remember him coming up the driveway. I was in the window with my mom and my sister, and we're asking ourselves, like, what is he doing as he's coming up with this car? And let me tell you, 6 months later, I was driving it. So that mentality, it stemmed with him. But then for me personally, I'm the youngest of 7. So there were a few things here. Obviously, I love my siblings. But growing up, I was like the ugly duckling of myself and my siblings. Because they were all big, strong. Like my brothers were over 6 foot. They were muscular. You know, one of my sisters is 5'9". She's excelling at sports. So me, I had a bad stutter, like really bad. And it's just ironic that I'm a speaker now, but I had a bad stutter. You can't see them because of the headphones, but I have skin tags under my right ear. And I was short and skinny. I was like, how did I get the short straw with everything? Like they can all talk. I'm tripping over my words. You know, they're all excelling in sports. They're getting headlines in the newspaper, photos in the newspaper. And to illustrate it for you, as a freshman in high school, I was 5'4", 88 pounds. So dealing with that reality, with, like I said, my brothers were big and muscular. And then there's me, right? So I fixed the stuttering problem. Like I went to a speech pathologist for 2 years. And guess what the big secret was?
What?
Brain was ahead of my mouth. I just had to slow down. He's like, you get so excited to speak that you just trip over your words. He's like, so there's nothing wrong with you. So overcame the first hurdle. The skin tags, it is what it is. I just tell people only special people get these. So the big one, and this is the one that really started to shape my competitiveness and my personality. So as that freshman, 5'4", 88 pounds, I go to my outdoor track coach and I asked him to see the record book. And he looked at me like, why do you want the record book? And I said, because I'm going to break the high jump record. And also, my brother used to walk around with his triple jump records on his T-shirt. And little did he know, I wrote them all down. So my mission was, I was like, at some point, I have to grow. Like, I don't think I'm going to stay short and skinny forever. And so he gives me the book, but he says, you don't have what it takes to be a high jumper. He's like, why don't you try hurdles instead? And I was like, I don't want a hurdle. Like, I want a high jump. Like, my sister does the high jump. It looks really fun. And so he gave it to me. You know, I wrote them all down, but I never forgot those words where he said, you don't have what it takes to be a high jumper. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, I'm a freshman. I haven't even hit my growth spurt yet. And how are you going to put that type of diagnosis on me?
Exactly.
And so I just studied the event. You know, I studied the sport, studied training. And, you know, as a freshman, he was probably right at the time. Like, I didn't jump great, but I was learning the mechanics. And then as a sophomore, I did better. As a junior, I tied the record. And as a senior, I broke the record, which I held for 21 years. And my brother's triple jump record, smashed it. And I held the record for the Southern Division triple jump record for 24 years. And then I was also part of 4x100 meter. We broke the record, I believe, 4 or 5 times in a row. And then I had the pentathlon record as well. But we go back to what that coach said. I could have let that one sentence derail my entire athletic career. You know, so I know that was a long explanation, but that's where the name came from. It's like, if you have your mind set on something, just do what it takes to get there.
Absolutely. And the shut up is more it's more about the part of us in our brain that goes into fear or nags or complains.
Yes.
And you're saying just, if you have a goal, just continue grinding, and you're going to get your goal, because you're going to continue grinding without necessarily paying attention to what's the obstacles are and what holds you back.
Yes.
Now, with the stutter, you are an award-winning public speaker. How come?
Yes.
What did you do, and how did you overcome the public speaking fear, or even the stutter?
Well, because a lot of it is we put the pressure on ourselves. So back in, I believe it was 6th grade, I had to do, there was like a poem speaking contest that the whole school participated in. And at the time, I couldn't just get the words out, So that day, as that day got closer and closer, I was scared. I was trying to fake sick. Like, I didn't want to go to school that day, so I didn't have to get on the stage. But when I got up there, I mean, the auditorium is full. Like, my heart is racing, I'm sweating, and like, I did not want to do it. But I get out there, and I only tripped up once. Like, it actually went way better than I thought it was. But it was because I put that mental block up ahead. Like, I was planning for the fall, instead of just planning to just zero in and focus on the task at hand. So that's how I first started to overcome it. But then I got into leadership at a young age. Like, I started supervising a small diner at 15. And so by 19, I was a general manager. So given like store meetings, kitchen staff trainings, things of that nature. So I was always in front of people talking. So that part kind of just developed naturally over time. But it wasn't until 2017 to where I made the switch from speaker to storyteller, because those are definitely two different things. But I went down to a speaker boot camp in Atlanta, Georgia, and one phone call completely transformed the way I speak. So at this event, there were 41 other people there, and I wanted to put my best foot forward. Like, one of the top motivational speakers in the country is Eric Thomas, and this was part of his group. And so he was going to be there on day 2, and I was scheduled to speak on day 2. So I was like, I got to bring my A game. So I only have 10 minutes. I want to put as much fire into this 10 minutes as I can. But little did I know that was not the right approach. So I fly back to Boston, and I'm driving back down here to Rhode Island, and my phone rings, and it's CJ. He's Eric Thomas's CEO. And so he says, hey, Robert, thanks for coming down to Atlanta. It was great to meet you. He says, you were far and away the most polished speaker there. And I was like, okay, thank you. But he said, but you were too polished. He said, you were so polished that there was no emotion in your story. And then he took a part of what I shared, and he himself, without even knowing the full story, he expanded on it. So like, really what I should have done was just taken one story and told every detail of that story for the 10 minutes. Because he said your tonality was there. He said your pitch was there. He's like, the people in the room, like, they were dialed into your story. He's like, but you didn't move anybody. He said Eric was probably the worst speaker there, but there wasn't a dry eye in the room because his story had emotion. So I was like, all right. So from that day forward, I completely revamped how I tell my personal stories.
So there is a part of you that brings your emotional experiences and shares them with people so that they capture not only the points of the story, but also the experience of the story as you're sharing with them. So it's almost like, okay, you have a point, but you share the point within a story, and then you land it at the end with the point. And trying to, for any audience to experience your experience at the moment that you are gaining those lessons, in a sense.
Yes. So when it comes to that, a lot of people conflate what happened to the storytelling. Like, what happened, that's not the full story. I mean, yeah, it's important to understand what happened, but the story starts from the minute after. from the minute after forward. It's like, how did what happened not break you? You know, that's like, I can talk about coming back from my knee injury, but people have knee surgery every day, you know, so that's not a big deal. But the doctor telling me I was never going to run or jump again, and defying those odds, like being in the top 5% of people that have this injury, and to be able to come back and compete in track meets and play basketball and volleyball and do obstacle races. You know, it's like the end result isn't the story either, right? So the fact that I broke my knee and the fact that I was able to battle back, right? No one's going to resonate with that on the surface. But when they talk about the daily grind and feeling the pain and doing it anyway, and not wanting to and doing it anyway, and just as I got stronger and stronger and pushed the envelope, now you're talking about a story of resilience, and not just, oh, this guy thinks he's hot stuff because he did 200 races after the doctor said he wouldn't. It's not about that. It's about that process. And through this process, I realized that pain is pain, right? So I was speaking with a prospective speaker, and I told him, I said, I can align my knee story with a woman who's 9 months pregnant. And he's like, no, you can't. I said, because you're stuck on what? Or you're stuck on what? Obviously, being pregnant and growing a life inside of you isn't on the same level as getting an injury. But the daily pain is aligned. Like, so I have to get up every day and do what's necessary to teach myself to walk again. She has to get up every day and deal with the reality of a baby on her bladder, a foot in her rib, back pain, bloating, swollen ankles, right? So each one is dealing with some level of pain, and they have to face that pain every single day. And so it doesn't matter what somebody goes through. It's the steps of how you deal with what happened. That's what's going to pull the audience in.
So it's the resilience, and you talk about, you share the power of the resilience through how you have overcome something, and then you relate it to your audience, whomever is, you know, whatever they're listening to, in the steps of resilience where they can find it themselves the same way you found it in yourself.
Yes, like that's what the takeaway is, because a lot of people, when they get into that dark place, they feel stuck. They can sometimes feel worthless, hopeless. And that's a dangerous place to be. Like, a lot of bad things can happen there. So as I share the things that I've overcome, it's like I've overcome them. You know, like this isn't, you know, and I never say this to knock education, but I would say this isn't stuff that I learned in a book. Like, this is stuff that I've lived through. You know, donating a kidney to my sister, watching my father pass away, you know, losing everything and having to rebuild. I was even homeless for 6 days. You know, so it's like these are things that I've been through. I've been to that dark place, and I was able to pull myself out of that dark place. And that's what the point is of the book, because people always ask me how. Like, how did you do this? Like, how did you stay focused on this? Like, how did you not succumb to the darkness? Well, this is how. You know, and so within the book, there's 15 chapters, but within those 15 chapters, there's 13 worksheets. And it's like the actual steps that I took. Like, I didn't see a therapist. I didn't get on any meds. I just figured out that I don't want to be in this place anymore. This is where I want to get to. And those were the steps I took to get there.
Now, your book is also about public speaking. And what I'm hearing from you is not just for people to think, oh, I got to get on the stage and do public speaking. You're also sharing that, you know, anytime you're talking to anyone, it is a public speaking. So as long as there's a couple of people there, whether they're your employees or, you know, they're your friends, or you're in your leadership program, leadership positions, such as you said, you're working with the team in the team meetings, or that you are actually a part of a bigger picture of, you know, public speaking, that you're sharing in your book, and how to bring your pain and experience it and share it in a way that other people can relate, because everybody has some access to some sort of a pain. And then they all also have access to their own resilience and power, and how they can move forward with that. The reason you wanted to explore public speaking, was it because you were trying to get over the stutter? Is that like that was more of motivation for you? Or how did you get into public speaking?
Yeah, so I didn't even know it was a thing, So growing up, I grew up pre-internet, So like I didn't even know that speaking was an actual career choice, right? So once the internet started popping around, like I said, I was always in a leadership position, so it was my job to get people motivated, get them inspired to do their job, and I did that by making the job bigger than what they think it is. Like if someone's waiting tables, like say at a breakfast place, it's like you're starting someone's day. It's like don't think of yourself as just a server. It's like someone's coming here to see you to jumpstart their morning. Like that's a big deal, and you want to put your best foot forward. And the same thing with the cooks. I'm like I want you to cook like you're about to serve your grandmother. Okay, if you wouldn't serve it to your grandmother, don't put it in that window. And so now it's a bigger purpose. So as I switched into fitness, that was when it really flipped, because now I can do my own style. Whereas in the restaurants you have to adhere to the restaurant's policies and the restaurant standards, and now I could just be me. So there I had to be what they wanted me to be, and I just couldn't be my like who I am authentically, like on these platforms. So I spoke on the Global Speakers Summit on Saturday, and one of the producers was like, make sure you show up in a professional manner, please. And I said, so I wrote back, I'm like, whose profession are we talking? I said, because in my profession, this is what I wear. I said, I don't wear a shirt and a tie in the gym. Right? I said, so whose profession are we using? And so she's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. She's like, just show up and be yourself. I was like, all right, thank you. See, but in a corporate situation, I would have to just do whatever they tell me. Like I'm not free to be myself. So same thing in the fitness classes was where I realized that the teachings that I'm doing in class translate to everyday life. Like when they're pushing through, say you're holding a plank and it starts to get hard and your body starts shaking and all that, and you want to quit. It's like, no, don't quit. Get to the other side of that pain. And just the more and more the better and better I got as a fitness coach, I was like, I think I want to start taking this stuff bigger. And so when I started my podcast using the knee story as the catalyst in the beginning, like I was originally just talking about fitness, but then I realized the principles that it takes for somebody to lose 20 pounds, to put on, 10 pounds of muscle, to shave minutes off their 5K time. Like there's a whole process there that can translate to any industry, like literally any industry. Like if you wanted to start up, let's say a blog, right? It's like there's steps. There's steps like, who is this blog for? What are you going to talk about? What are their needs? The frequency, and so on and so forth. And so I started switching up how I did the podcast. Instead of just talking about fitness, I started talking about overcoming struggles, overcoming the odds, building resilience, building confidence, things of that nature. And then like now my show, I'm booking into May of next year, and I bring guests from all over the world. And it doesn't matter if my guest is in Africa, if they're in Bangladesh, if they're in India, South America. Everyone's story is the same. Like they're in that struggle, and then somewhere in there, they flip the switch and they're like, I'm done with this. So like when I come on these platforms, that's the person I'm talking to, that person that's ready to make that pivot, and they just don't know how to do it. And my show is dedicated, and these appearances that I make are dedicated to that person to get whatever is holding them back from what they really want.
Everyone, go get the book, Shut Up and Grind, Never Fear Public Speaking Again, a specific approach on how to share your life stories to make you a better speaker, presenter, communicator, a leader, and overall a person. So it's interesting because I think when people talk about or hear the word public speaking, it always appears to be someone's on a stage and they're, talking to a group of people. But beautifully, as you shared, and as you were talking about some of the your life experiences, it's true that you could take on the concept of pain to resilience or motivation, or what is it that you can have as a motivation, a bigger purpose in everything that you do. You know, your life can be so intentional at every moment to being your best. And your best is the combination of your vulnerabilities and your strength together, because a lot of times, Robert, we don't get to know our strengths if we're not vulnerable. You know, we kind of bank on our strength and kind of move on, and we get surprised by the next obstacle that we hit, and then suddenly we become vulnerable. And then from there, as you said it, we could either fold, quit, or find the motivation to move on. Sometimes we choose to move on to something else, and sometimes we choose to move on straight ahead and gain whatever that, you know, the next obstacle is, and whatever the next success that we think it is. And you know, I've been a psychotherapist for almost 33 years, and I do get that there is a commonality in there's not a commonality in pain, but there's a commonality in the way we deal with pain, the type of different things that happens to us and how we can deal with it or not deal with it or avoid it or ignore it or deal with it. And part of the conversation of the title is deal with it. You know, it's like the shut up and grind just means deal with it and move forward, right? The best way that you can, or learn it, or learn, you know, from other people in how to deal with what's going on so that you could be the best that you can be. And as you were sharing about, you know, how to be a leader in different places, whether you're a leader and at home with your family, or at work with other people, or in your community, that any of those roles takes you to move forward. And I even know when, you know, we talk about parenthood, one of the best ways to share your wisdom is through stories. So the concept of being real, you know, and I think the stories should kind of make it real, because if you're just lecturing people and about what to do, some people might not relate to how you've done it, or they might not necessarily understand how you went up. But when you put it in the story, there's a way of relating to the experience of a human being, where then you could say, you know, if that person went through so much pain and was able to find the steps, can I also find the way that I can go through those steps and get to where I need to be? You also have assessments in your book that shares about, you know, you have questions that the person can start looking and becoming aware of what is their pain and, you know, what is it that's stopping them. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So the very first chapter of the book is there's nothing wrong with you. So now I'm not talking about like axe murderers and people who kidnap children. Obviously, there's something twisted with them, but just the average person that's stuck and they think that they need more education, or they're not talented enough, or I don't have a story to tell, things of that nature. Like, it's like, that's not true. Everybody has a story to tell. You just don't know how to tell it. And that's why people fear public speaking. It's not the public speaking itself that they fear. The fear is judgment, rejection, ridicule, embarrassment, right? That's what they're afraid of. Like, as well versed as I am here, if you ask me a question about astrophysics, right, that's not my lane. I'm going to be stuttering up a storm up there, right? Because that's not my lane. I'm not practiced. I'm not seasoned in that. And people always say I'm not confident enough. And you might disagree with this, but I tell people, I'm like, confidence isn't real. Like, confidence comes from competency, right? So if I want to take up rowing, right, even though I'm into fitness, I don't know rowing. So right now I'm not competent enough for it. But if you give me a few months, let me get out there, wake up the muscles that it's required to do that, and then I'll gain the competency, which will give me confidence to get out there and do it. You know, so speaking is no different. I tell people, if you want to get good at speaking, turn on your phone and start speaking. Even if you don't post it anywhere, just practice speaking, get the reps in, and then figure out what you want to talk about and who needs to hear it. It's like if I'm gonna talk to a bunch of athletes about something that's completely unrelated to their journey, they're gonna tune out.
Right.
You know, case in point, I spoke at a local university up in Providence, and it was a career fair for high school juniors and seniors. So there's about 160 or so kids there, and so I was, as I mentioned earlier, I donated a kidney to my sister, so I was up there representing New England Donor Services. So the Cancer Society went first. And as they're up there doing their thing, it's like these are people who are talkers, they're presenters, but like they're not really speakers, you know, like there is a difference. And you could tell because the kids were on their phone, you know, the kids are like having little side chats with each other. So now it's our turn. And the director spoke first, and then I was second. So the director goes in. To her defense, she had to give stats, but there's still a way that she could have made the stats a little bit more fun, you know, because the kids were totally tuned out with the stats. So as I go, the other director, I nudged her on the shoulder. I was like, watch this, right? And so I get up there, and I go, all right, guys, who here wants to be a superhero, would love to be a superhero? And all the hands go up. I'm like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? You know, and so now I have their attention. And then as I went into mine, I did it using the superhero thing, saying like, if you become an organ donor, you can affect 50 lives. Then if you get somebody else to become an organ donor and they get somebody to become an organ donor, I'm like, now you're a superhero. Because now it's not 50 lives, now it's 100 lives, now it's 150 lives, now it's 200 lives. And now it's something bigger than just them sitting down listening to us talk. You know, so I pulled those kids right in, and I want to say almost half the room signed up to be organ donors right there on the spot.
Beautiful. So that you tap into something that is within them, which pulls the heart. And we know based on research that, you know, people, emotions are the motivator of any type of action. So also emotions are what holds our memory in a sense. Like there's so many things that happen all day, but if our emotions are not activated toward it, we release it. We won't even hold it in our memory. It's like, it wasn't that important. Yep. So in a sense, we only sense things to be important if we have some sort of an emotion around it. And what you're saying is, as someone who speaks, you tap into what is your emotion and theirs, and whether it is tapping into their desire, whether it's excitement, or whether it is being proud. You know, when you say to, you know, the superhero, not only the actions, but there's a pride in having the ability to do something so well. And then, you know, the generosity of taking care of other people. And you'll sometimes also share the pain and ignite their pain first. And then, you know, the marketing industry has been using that for, you know, all the time.
Yep.
Ads that are producing pain and tell you, okay, like our product will relieve the pain. And some products will immediately take you into the pleasure and say, whatever pain you are in, we're going to take you to the next level of pleasure. And what I'm hearing from you is saying that we're human, and one of the most important factors within our system is emotion, and storytelling connects and brings those emotions. It's not just reading history, is experiencing it. That's what movies do, right? It's not, you can read the history, but movies come in, bring this into life and brings the emotions out, where you're listening, you're watching, you're viewing, and then you can capture that experience of what the movie is telling you. And what you're sharing is that you, as anyone who wants to speak, has an amazing experience within themselves. And if they can share that experience in a way that produces some sort of an experience in the listener, that's where their speaking has been effective.
Yes. Yeah. So as an example, I was working with 3 women. We were on a Zoom call. One of them survived a heart attack and a stroke in the same year at the age of 34. Another one when she was 21, she watched her high school sweetheart take his life. And the third one creates outdoor living spaces in urban communities. So the first two, share what they went through. Then I get to the third one, and she's like, I can't compete with that, with those two. And I said, you don't have to compete with them. And she's like, yeah, but my story is really, really not that great. I'm like, just trust me, just go. And so she starts breaking it down. And I guess her father, they were like kind of lower middle class. She said growing up, lived in an urban area. Her father had some good fortune, got a great job. They moved into a more rural community, and she fell in love with nature. But she still had close ties to her urban upbringing. And so she's dedicated her life to doing 2 to 3, going to these urban schools and building in like an outdoor nature learning center. And so the way I helped her break it down, I'm like, that is absolutely amazing. That's an amazing story. It's like you're giving these kids something that they've never experienced. And for some of them, because a lot of people remain in the city. And so like a lot of them, something that they've never seen, unless they grow up and travel. I said, that's a powerful thing. Like you're affecting the lives of the youth. You're improving the educational experience for disadvantaged children. I'm like, that is a very powerful story. It doesn't have to be witnessing something horrible or surviving a near-death experience, for it to be a powerful story. And so I just helped her with that reframe. And then she, like when she finally came time for her to do her whole story, like she told it beautifully. Like once she understood the magnitude of what she was dealing with, like I said earlier, people thinking that they don't have a story to tell. It's like they do, they just don't know how to tell it.
Right. So one of the biggest questions, and I do a lot of speaking. I go into conventions and talk. And to this day, people share with me, oh my God, you were so confident. I'm like, you have no idea what happened before I go on a stage. And half of the time I'm very scared. And when I get anxious, when I used to get anxious, I used to get pain in my body. Now I've worked on that for so long not to throw it in my body. But now I have my anxiety I feel woozy. I feel like I'm not even in my body. So as I walk up, it just feels like, okay, I got to ground again. I got to come back into my body. And then I get very emotional. And it's funny, the way that I found how to work with myself and everyone, it has been this authenticity that I just get up and say, hey, I'm nervous or I'm anxious or, I'm going to cry, but don't worry about it. So I'll tell people what's happening inside of me with that fear. And it doesn't matter, right? I've been doing media since 1996. It doesn't matter. The minute I start that, the fear and the anxiety of performing or just being yourself or being seen, all of that, or not screwing up, all of that shows up at the same time. Give us some tools around that.
Well, I mean, it depends because people have their different outlets that they go to. Like before a podcast, I'll either go for a walk or I'll listen to music. Listen to music or a video. Just whatever people's go-to outlets are, go there. To your point, when the anxiousness shows up, you got to deal with it. If you don't deal with it, it's going to consume you. So if it's there, if reading calms you down, then read. If working out does, like whatever brings you back to your happy state, go there. I always tell people it's not just one thing that works. So just knowing what your happy place is. Is it music? Is it singing? Is it going to take a warm shower before or whatever it is, cold shower, whatever floats your boat. But just know what your outlets are. And like with me, for some reason, I actually got a little bit nervous before coming on this one. and I'm not a nervous speaker at all. But like I said, when it comes in, I'm just like, all right, let me just go outside, let me bob my head a little bit, get back in the zone, and then here we are. But for a lot of people, they let it consume them. But again, it's just because they're unprepared and they're unpracticed. Like that's what it's about. It's like the more and more you do it, it's like anything else. If you want to play basketball, you got to get outside and play basketball. the more you play it, the better at it you're going to get. And speaking is no different. But the big thing is if you have unresolved things inside of you, And you know this firsthand. If you have unresolved things inside of you, the more you speak about it, the easier it gets to handle. Like, I watched my father pass away. You know what I mean? It's like, and if I get stuck on just watching his last 30 seconds of life, if I get stuck in that place, like, I'm never going to heal. So the very next day, right, like the universe works in mysterious ways. So about 4 months prior to that, I had a podcast booked for that Tuesday. He passed away on a Monday. And at first I was going to cancel that episode. But lo and behold, the episode was about grief. Who would have thought? And so I was like, you know what? I'm always preaching that you got to show up. No matter what, when you don't feel like it, you got to show up. So I showed up. I did the first few minutes just of like a tribute video to my dad. So, of course, I'm bawling like a baby. And I start the show, got tears streaming down my face. And so, of course, my guest was backstage, but I could see that she was crying too. So we start the episode with both of us just emotional wrecks, but I had to get up. Like, people can process however long it takes them to process. But for me, I like to tackle everything immediately. Like, that's just how I operate. So I was like, let me just get out there. Let me just face the pain. It doesn't matter if I face it today, if I face it next week, I'm going to have to face it. And so I'll just face it today. And it was a powerful episode, but the more and more I tell the story about what happened to him, I mean, if I tell the full story beginning to end, I'll get emotional in there. But like, if I tell little snippets here or there, and especially for the men in your audience out there, it's okay to cry, guys. If it wasn't okay, we wouldn't have tear ducts. We just wouldn't have them. You know what I mean? Just how women can breastfeed and we can't. We're not meant to. Okay, we don't have the equipment. Okay, we have the equipment to cry. It's okay to cry. Like I said, if I tell that story start to finish, I can't get through it without getting choked up. I can't. And it's okay. Like, I'm sure you've been on stages, whether either you yourself or you've been in the audience and the speaker got emotional. What do people do?
Yeah.
They clap, right? They clap. It's like, people act like they don't respect it, but they do.
Well, I mean, for me, I've noticed, Robert, that I have to love the audience. I have to fall in love with everybody who's there. And the minute that I fall in love with them, I connect with my heart and I start crying. And the cry is a beautiful connection cry. Is not at all, like a pain cry. It's a beautiful connection cry. And you're absolutely right. When that connection happens, that's when the clapping happens. It's not because, what I said, which was absolutely fantastic or amazing. It was because we just connected. And that's where the clapping comes. That's so true. Yeah, I've given up on the concept of don't cry on the stage. I tell it from even the beginning. I'm like, let me tell you, I'm a crier, but the good news is I can talk while I cry. So we could bypass this. So, because one of the concepts is like people, there's a lot of amazing human beings that and this is also happens with infants, because this is what we do as empathy. When somebody cries, we want to go soothe them, and it's like, okay, no, take care of yourself. I can handle this. So there's this other piece of, I can be vulnerable and strong all at the same time. And so can you. So if I'm crying, it doesn't mean you got to let go of yourself and come and take care of me. Let me show you that I can be vulnerable and I can take care of myself. And that's basically a lot of the message that you're also sharing in your book, which is, yes, there is vulnerability, but there's so much strength there. Everyone, Robert S. Foster, shut up and grind. Okay. Now you got the whole point. Never fear public speaking again. It's a specific approach to how to share your life stories to make a better speaker, presenter, communicator, and a leader and a person. Robert, anything we haven't shared that you want people to know?
So I usually leave each talk with just telling people, if you have something that you want to get done, just get started. Doesn't have to be perfect. Done beats perfect anytime. This is, I think, my fourth background. Here, it's like, just because you do something doesn't mean that has to be it for life. This is actually my second book cover, because the first one I didn't like the way it came out, so I just made another one. It's okay, just get it done, because if you sit back and think about all of the negative what ifs, you're gonna miss out on the positive what ifs. If say, oh well, what if they laugh at me? What if they don't? What if you nail it? What if you nail it? Like investing, like what if I lose it all? What if you 10x it? It's like you just have to get started. Like, 'cause if you don't get started, you're gonna stay right where you are. So once you start taking the steps forward, you're gonna start seeing the opportunities that are already there. Because like I mentioned earlier, like I've been to the dark place and I got out of the dark place because I got back into my purpose. Like I got knocked off my purpose for a minute. And then once I got back into it, I started coaching again and working with the athletes, relit my soul. I'm like, this is where I belong. Like I'm not meant to pivot. It's like I'm meant to stay right here in this lane. And then from there, all the positive snowballs started happening because now I got out of the darkness. And all those opportunities, they were there all along. They're right there. Like, hey, bud, we're over here. We're over here. It's like, get out of the well. It's like, we're right here. But people stay on that hamster wheel of normalcy.
Yes.
And I'm just challenging you. Figure out what lights your soul on fire. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start doing it. Beautiful.
Where can people find you?
So my social media handles are all over the place. So I'll just give a couple. On Facebook, I'm most active at Robert B. Foster. And then Instagram is at Robert_B_Foster. And then my website's robertbfoster.com. And the book is shutupandgrindbook.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
All of you who are out there, if you like what we shared, share it with others and let us know that you enjoyed it. Now, subscribe to the podcast and to everything that it could be beneficial in your life. So thank you, all of you, for being with us. Create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.
When I join Anabasis Academy, what do I get and what I don't get?
What do you get? What don't you get? You don't get a certificate because certificates never guarantee prosperity. You don't get generic so-called practical advice and recipes because you're unique and they hardly ever work. You don't get a bunch of shallow motivational nonsense because the only one who can motivate you is you. You will. You will get provoked and you will get fresh perspectives to consider. You'll get to activate your mindfulness, to tool up and move up, to discover your talents and gain confidence. And like all other remarkable people, if you engage and act, you will get a uniquely yours opportunity to evolve and shape your future.
Visit AnnaBazesAcademy.org. Explore the difference, experience it, and make a difference.
Are you a psychotherapist looking to enhance your practice? The Awareness Integration Therapy developed by Dr. Foojan Zeine is a comprehensive guide to the principle and techniques of this powerful therapeutic approach. Join the growing community who have elevated their practice and expanded their skills by embracing Awareness Integration Therapy and witnessing its life-changing impact. Order your copy on Amazon now.